All right, so what are the benefits of saving and the consequences of not saving? So we've already talked about some of these, but it's the ability to achieve our financial goals, to have financial security in later life, to reduce stress when emergencies happen, to bring this peace of mind. It definitely helps in arguments over money in marriage. Again, money is one of the highest areas of conflict and reason for separation and divorce. And so when we know where our money's going, we decide where we want the money to go and act on our money rather than let our money act on us or our desires act on us. We are free to and see our goals being accomplished, our money being directed towards its best use and best practice. Um, and then some of those consequences of not saving, we could lose our home or standard of living if something happened. We could have financial insecurity in later life and not live the quality of life we want in retirement. We could not have enough to take care of ourselves. And so as we think about these things and envision our future self, this increases our self-awareness, our emotional intelligence. And when you can pay yourself first and delay gratification, then you learn self-discipline that bleeds over into other areas of life. You have more control over your health, more control over your relationships, and in all other areas of life. And so we're talking here about money and saving, but really we want to be emotionally aware, self-aware. We want to be mindful of what we're doing so that we can change our behaviors in any area of our life. All right, let's talk about saving here. Helping your savings grow. This is saving long-term. Is savings really that beneficial? Let's try to get you a little excited here about saving for the future. So we see investor A, B, C, D, and E. Investor D starts when they're 8 years old and invest $500. Can everybody see what I'm talking about with investor D? $500, and then the second year they do $750, $1,000, $1,250, $1,500, and $1,750. And then investor C, they wait and start when they're 14, and they invest for 5 years, $2,000 a year, so that's $10,000. Investor B starts when they're 19 and goes 7 years and quits at 25. And then investor A starts when they're 26 and invests for 40 years until they're 65. Investor E is doing all of it. So from investor A, B, C, and D, again, A is investing for 40 years, $2,000 a year, so that's $80,000. Investor B, for 7 years, he's got $14,000 in. Investor C is a little earlier, invests $10,000, and investor D, I think it's like $6,750. Who do you think by the age of 65, if they all received the same rate of return on their interest, would have more at the age of 65 when they retired? A, B, C, or D? What do you guys think? Not E. E doesn't count. Only A, B, C, or D. So we have A, C, and D. Nobody's shooting for investor B there. A, mostly A's. Okay, very good. Let's see what happens. So we see down on investor A, they can invest in the bottom left there, invested $80,000, and it grew 11 times, and so they now have $893,000. Investor B invested $14,000, but now they have $930,000, which is 66 times what they invested. Investor C only invested $10,000. They have $1.17 million, which was 117. Look at investor D, $6,750. They have $1.26 million. That was 188 times more than what they invested. How in the world could investor D, only investing $6,750, get to 1.3 million almost, when investor A, who invested 80,000, only has 893,000? Yes, A invested from 25 to 65, 40 years, $80,000 for Cassandra. Yeah, compound interest and the time it was collecting. It's called time value of money, right? Let's watch another little YouTube video, a little bit about this.
Now, let's take it to another level and discuss the importance of time. Compounding over a long period of time can potentially lead to exponential growth of a portfolio. Let's look at another example to understand how important time is to compounding. Suppose two investors have portfolios worth $100,000 each. The portfolios hold similar investments. They both use compounding to grow their portfolios 6% per year. One investor needs the money to retire in 20 years. The other will need the money to retire in 40 years. Let's see what a difference 20 years can make. At the end of 20 years, the $100,000 principal would have grown to $320,713. Now let's see how much the other investor would have earned. As you can see, the additional 20 years of compounding resulted in the principal growing to $1,028,571. That's more than 3 times the return of the other investor.
All right, did that make sense to everybody? Here's kind of the graph or chart. Let's see, so there's a echo. Let me try to fix that. Okay, hopefully that'll help. So they said the person that waited a little bit or only invested for 10 years instead of 20 years, they had about a third of that. Because as time grows, you can see how sharp this curve goes up. The first from 30 to 48, look at this chart here, and it starts at age 30, and once you get to 48, almost 20 years later, it's not really that high. But if you let it grow to 65, look how high it's going. What if you waited till 75? Does that make sense? As time goes on, compounding exponentially grows. It's an amazing mathematical phenomenon. And so as you make the discipline to put money aside, especially if there's a match, right, with the employer, or other money that you can find, maybe a tax return, or as you get bonus, a raise, or different things, as you can find money and put it into these long-term investments, that curve gets steeper and steeper and grows faster and faster, so that when you retire, you're better off. Now, obviously, if you move that and you only have 10 years or 15 years, then you don't have time on your side as much. You're going to have to put a lot more aside in order to have what you need. But if you're younger, or people you know are younger, the sooner they start, the more they're going to have. Again, that person that had about $7,000 invested, $6,750 ended up with 1.3 million, 188 times what they've been, just because they started when they were 8. So that's pretty amazing. Any questions about that?